much more manageable stretch maybe? You're finally home. What do you kind of hope to see from your team in this next stretch of games?
Yeah, definitely feels great to be here for an extended period of time. The way I look at it, starting when we got back from sunrise through New Year's, we have an opportunity over these next couple weeks to get better. Because of our schedule, the travel and the level of competition, we haven't had that much time over the past couple weeks to work on ourselves. And I think that's really important for us to kind of take that next jump with this group. But just getting healthy, getting kind of back in a good routine and trying to incrementally improve over these next couple weeks for sure.
How much experimenting can you do in these 3 games, and maybe getting other guys a look to see what they are, see what they can do?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some of that. The other part of it is I just don't think we're that far away either, so I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel too much or try to change a lot of what we do. There's specific areas we need to improve, and we need more of our whether I say bench guys or role guys to step up and play better. That's apparent, but we're also pretty dang close to being what we want to be. So my hope is that we can get a little confidence during the stretch, not taking anything away from who we're competing against, but just being home and getting back in a routine and being in our own facility for a couple days in a row, I think should really help this group. And but yeah, there's definitely be if things go according to plan tomorrow night, for example, there'll be more guys playing bigger roles.
Do you feel like Xavian's turned the corner finally?
I would say so. I think he played his ass off last week. 2 Ken Palm MVP performances. Thought he was fantastic against George Washington. The game is starting to look like it's coming easier to him, at this level. And I think, George Washington's a really good club. They're a top 80 team. They were top 60 for majority of the year. And, he just played nearly a perfect game, with just how easy it looked for him. He took a lot of great shots, continued to do a great job taking care of the ball, staying on the glass. And, it's the player that we expected, when we brought him in. And I think he's finally gotten over the hump in terms of, that comfort. And I made a joke with him yesterday at practice. I said, no turning back now. You've arrived, and it's time to keep this up for the rest of the year.
Confidence, how critical is this confidence?
I think he's no different than any of us are, in the sense of it being, a driving force behind your success or lack thereof. And, I think, like we've talked about a lot, we've asked a lot of him, to grow in a lot of areas, taking him out of his comfort zone in terms of playing on the ball the whole time and being a part of a better team than he's ever been a part of. And, it just took him a little bit to get comfortable. And I credit him for, not pointing fingers or blaming other people and just being consistent. And, I think he's really the last 3 out of the last 4 games he's played really, really well. Duke, he was just okay, but the other, Providence, I thought he was great. He was awesome in UConn game, and I thought he had his best game of the year against George Washington.
What's the message to Boogie? Obviously had a really good second half against Duke, but, still struggling a little bit offensively, defensively, doing some good things.
Yeah.
I think he's second on the team in D win shares.
Yeah.
A lot of steals.
A lot of the same stuff we were talking to Xavian about.
Yeah.
Just continue taking the right shots. It's that delicate balance of him coming out in the George Washington game being really aggressive. Looking for his 3. And listen, when guys are sliding under the ball screen, I want our guards to be aggressive. Looking for that shot. And I think all these guys are having to balance. Like, all right, a poor shooting performance, can't let it affect the rest of my game. All these things. And it took Xavian a couple weeks to break through it, and I think Boogie's had more moments where he's done it and kind of fell back to where he struggled shooting the ball. But the rest of his game has been good and similar to X, for that time. And he works on his game. He puts the time in. He knows the right shots to take and the right way to play. And we want him to be aggressive hunting those shots. And I think over the course of time, over the course of his career, he's been a better shooter than what he's proven to this point. And, I think because of his approach and how he's gone about it, I think he will end up shooting the ball better. And when he does, and if we can get him and X doing it at the same time, we're going to be pretty dang good.
And then I know you guys want to play 8. Like,
maybe 9.
How's the search for that consistency it really seems like 3 guys.
Yeah. I don't think our schedule has been conducive to providing an opportunity for these guys to get super comfortable. because we've been in really tight games against really good teams. And you know, generally with younger guys especially, and all those guys are young, whether it's CJ, you know, Alex, or, you know, Isaiah Brown, you know, these guys that are kind of fighting for those minutes. We just don't have those opportunities when it's at the Garden against UConn, you know, to play through mistakes and
Right.
to, you know, get comfortable. And it's probably unfair to them, but it's just the reality of the situation with this year's schedule. So now, you know, as, you know, Mark talked about, you know, we're at a point where we might be able to play through some mistakes or, you know, have a little bit longer leash in certain areas. And my hope is, you know, over this next couple weeks, we can kind of, you know, find a couple of guys that can handle that. I thought Isaiah played really well on Saturday, you know, given his opportunity. And, you know, he's a guy that we came into the year thinking he could give us a lift, and we still believe that to be the case. And, you know, I think CJ and Alex are going to get a little bit of an opportunity here to go out there and do that. So that's the biggest thing besides getting healthy and getting, you know, on solid ground, is just trying to provide a little more depth over these next couple weeks.
What do you just kind of see from St. Francis?
You know, they have some good guards that can put the ball in the basket. You know, their leading scorer is shooting above 40 from three, so he's a guy that can hurt you if you're not, you know, accountable on the scouting report. You know, but a team that, like anybody else, you know, we're going to respect them, but not fear them. And, you know, a big part of tomorrow will be about us, you know, about us doing the things that we don't think require talent to be good, and not allowing our opponent to dictate a lot of that. But, you know, just like any Division I team, if you don't respect them and if you don't play hard, they can get you. You know, if we play the way we're capable of, I think we'll be in good shape.
The new seats between you and the scores table, do you like that? Does it change the way you approach things? Or say what you say, maybe?
Maybe what I say occasionally. Occasionally. I mean, listen, I don't mind it. I think it's the new era, right, of college sports, and we're trying to find as many ways as possible to create revenue for the department, you know, so everybody can get a little bit of that, and the NBA does it, you know, right? And I feel like we are in Power 5, Power 4 college basketball, Power 4 plus Big East college basketball, like we're pretty close to getting to the NBA in terms of a lot of this stuff, and I think that's just kind of the next natural progression, and I don't really have an issue with it. I think it's kind of just part of what our profession is growing into right now.
You know, some of those people sit there regularly. Do you go out of your way to meet everybody, knowing that they paid big money to?
Yeah, I mean, my hope is the people that are sitting in those seats are people that I know. So far, so good on that.
Okay.
You know, and yeah, I think that's going to be a little bit of the experience for them, is just kind of being close to us and seeing how we operate. We're going to continue to take some time getting used to, because I don't necessarily want, you know, people that pay to come to the games to hear everything I say, but that's part of it.
Okay.
Top three things between now and SEC play you'd like to see?
Oh man, you know, it's a lot of the same stuff. You know, I think we've been going a million miles an hour since November 3rd. I think getting completely healthy and getting kind of refreshed, both mentally and physically.
Who's banged up?
It's less about being banged up and more of just, you know, it
Worn
being
down?
a long preseason. You know, last year, I think this past weekend was the first time we left the state of Florida for a game, when we went to Atlanta to play Arizona State. That was not the first time we left the state this past, you know, week. In terms of our travel, we've been, I think, 4 or 5 different states and across the country twice, and played a much more difficult schedule, which wears on you mentally and physically. It just does. And you know, I think we have learned a lot about ourselves over the last couple of weeks, and if we you know, address everything the right way, we're going to be a lot more prepared for SEC play than we were last year, even when we got to Kentucky and lost. So you know, just being able to use the experiences of the past couple of weeks to get better. So just both team and individual improvement, getting kind of refreshed mentally and physically, and then continuing to improve in the areas where I think we have made a little bit of a jump with taking care of the ball, defending without fouling. Those are 2 things we talked a lot about, where we're incrementally getting better. And then lastly, I would really enjoy seeing us make some 3-pointers over the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Any fun holiday plans for you or the team?
Pretty standard for, you know, we'll give our guys a couple days off to go be with their families, bring them back the day after Christmas, and, you know, we'll spend a couple days getting ready for Dartmouth after that. But no, just good opportunity to kind of recalibrate.
NATO said this week that he felt like college basketball is better than ever and that coaching matters more than ever. And in fairness to him, he said this after they got walloped.
Right.
Kind of your thoughts on just where the sport is and you know, it's such a unique thing now with the portal. And
Yeah, I think that the top is definitely better than it's ever been. You know, and so credit to Nate. I think Nate's schedule and our schedule are two of the top 4 strength of schedules, you know, in college basketball to this point. So they're not taking it easy on themselves either. And, you know, when you're seeing teams like Arizona, UConn, Duke for us, you're like, man, you know, there's some really good players across the way and great coaches as well. And, you know, I think the top of college, you know, basketball is definitely the best it's ever been. And I think you're seeing that now with a little bit of the disparity between the power fours, Big East, and, you know, mid-majors and low majors compared to what it used to be 5 years ago. But it's definitely, it's incredible, man. There's great players out there. From the coaching standpoint, I think it is as imperative as ever to kind of be unique and to find ways to gain advantages. And, you know, you feel like you're in that battle every night, you know, against these guys. And but it's what we sign up for, and it's awesome that our program's a part of that, you know, that top level of college basketball for sure.
Bama dropped 6 spots, getting blown out, but losing to number 1. Was it number 1 Arizona?
Yeah.
You guys dropped 5 spots, losing by a point to UConn.
Yeah.
In New York City. Is it like the voters got to check themselves a little bit here?
I think, you know, I think we're a tough team right now for humans to evaluate.
Because of the records.
Because of our
6-4.
record,
Yeah.
And I think, you know, just the way that the rankings have always gone, you know, it's like, all right, they lost, let's bump them down a couple spots, or, you know, they won, let's bump them up a couple spots. And you know, when you look at our results, you know, at Duke, you lose by 1. Like, I mean, I don't think that's a shameful result. I think a lot of programs would be satisfied, not necessarily with losing, but that be the case,
sure.
right? And, you know, I think the only result we're really, you know, super disappointed about, probably TCU, because we had a 10-point lead late in that game and didn't finish the way we were capable of. But, you know, the other results, you know, I don't necessarily think should be held against us. Or, you know, we're not what we were preseason ranked, and I don't think we are what we're ranked right now. We're probably somewhere in the middle. And I think the computers would back that up, you know, with what their data evaluation has said up to this point about our program. But yeah, you know, I think we're good. We're not great yet, but I think we're capable, and we have a runway to get there, and that's what I'm excited about over these next couple weeks.